Will and I are trying to harmonize.
I've heard negative things about Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, and at the very least, there's a difference between, obviously the guy was prolific and brilliant and an excellent like polymath when it came to running a business, promoting a person that you are, and being a disciplined scientist, sufficient enough to be a good research and developer, to create your own products and think about what's like and market them. At least to be able to do that fluently as a figurehead, even if you're commanding other people who are really doing that work for you, even if it got to that point, to be able to do that. Yeah, he did a great job. Similar to, as you could say, like Henry Ford developed a lot of acumen for that, right? But what the hell was I going to say? Oh, Westinghouse as well. I don't know enough about, but it does a good job of talking about how like Tesla introduced these ideas to these very important figureheads in industry and in finance, and was like, hey, I just fixed all this stuff for you and made all of this stuff work. So now you can basically have electricity be distributed on a massive scale. And I'm telling you that there's more efficient ways that we can do it. And we don't even need wires. We don't have to waste materials. We can just do wireless transfer of energy and all this stuff. And they're like, yes, no, thanks. No, well, we own all your patents and you can't do anything with them. And yeah, good luck. We're not going to pay you the money that we said we're going to, and we're taking money away from your project because we're already making so much money off the way things are being distributed now. We don't have any interest in financing doing things wirelessly, for example. And just
okay, so
it's fascinating to know that influence, as you're talking about, ripples throughout history.
It ripples throughout history
nonstop.
But interestingly, and this is my question, and this is where I feel like so many issues of our time
sorry about the sound effects. Yeah.
Have so much nuance to them, because without the ruthless, essentially capitalistic way of being of perhaps Thomas Edison, to kind of perpetuate these ideas and ram them through to the point where they would be able to scale. It's easy to like take a lens back and be like, let's give it away for free. It's this weird sort of push and pull of human progress where, capitalism, for all of its flaws, has advanced us in a way by providing an incentive to humanity or to people as a whole to kind of build and grow, because they're incentivized by creating something because of essentially monetary gain and wealth. So, and I think it's a question of
that. I mean, there's a lot, like, I think that is one outcropping of this tendency to see the financial, pulsation that happens in the veins of money and how it siphons and moves into certain communities and through certain technologies and all this stuff. But there's other elements at play there, where just like the short-term people wanting to have certain base desires met that makes them be short-term prioritizing, and also just our bias of our brain. So it's like
our bias of our brain.
Yeah. So I don't even know if the systems itself, it's the same way, like, all the theoreticians of political theory and economic theory were just espousing the perspective of these things are ingrained in human nature to some degree and are inherent in the structure of a social interaction. They just would misappropriate the level of specificity of what, like, how much to label it, so like they try to give names to the patterns, but all that is that there's these,
because I think ultimately people want to believe that whatever system they believe in, would it be free of corruption, would function ideally and perfectly. But the reality is, because of our nature, like, corruption will always exist in some sense or form. Not universally, because I believe people are inherently good, but there are those within
There's asymmetries in the system.
Always kind of affected in a negative way.
I was going to say, in light of obviously all the tumult and turbulence in society now, there's a lot of discussion, obviously, about just uprooting a lot of problems in systemic issues. Obviously, racism is a very present one, but that also trickled into economic disparity, right, and the polarization of wealth, and not only in the country but ipso facto the world, right? And
What do
there's
you
a
think
lot-
about all that?
I think there's a lot of interesting stuff being said about it. And one of the coolest things that I ever remember learning about, I think I've talked to you about this in private before, it was ways of looking at like protein folding. And this is like a nerdy biology background thing, but looking at the way proteins fold and simple graphs in chemistry where you have like a plot that goes up and then dips down and then it has a plateau, right? So like this energy transition that happens when certain kinds of chemical reactions happen, and it can go one direction and be spontaneous if it goes to a lower state of energy, or you can put energy into it and go up and over the hill to this higher level of ground. But there's like a peak and then a plateau, right? And that's because there's a pocket of stability under certain energetic conditions. This is going to get really technical, but when you see the level of
No, you're good, man. I'm with you. I'm with you.
When you see the level of abstraction, it and how that can trickle into every element of sociology and kind of breaks the models that make things exist in specific ways. Okay, so where I'm going with this is imagine a 3D map, so like a topographical map that's just flat, right? So a plane. And imagine if you had just a deep spike in the middle of that, like a black hole, right? Like how you've seen those.
Yeah.
That's a pocket of stability. So
I've seen those.
Yeah. So if something gets near it, I can't remember, there's a name for those kinds of diagrams, but if something gets near it in the gravitational model, it'll like fall within it because it's extremely stable. And you could say the conditions of the universe tilt in that direction, right? At least, again, as it interacts with matter. So when you think about that in a chemical sense, you have these pockets in a complex system like proteins folding, which is just a string of amino acids that are all asymmetrical and have different electric relationships and electrochemical and chemical relationships to one another in this tight net space. And they're folding into all these things, and the temperature at which they fold, it's just like, oil, like bacon fat, turning it from a liquid into a solid. It like congeals, and when you fry an egg, you're changing the protein structure by like creating bonds and adding energy to the system, and it has a huge effect right on the outside of it. Point being is, what were we going to say? Go ahead. Sorry.
No,
This is getting to society. I swear.
Well, that was just going to be I was just going to bring it back to society.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I think I mean, I joke, but I understand the idea of essentially energy or power pulsating the kind of balance of a particular system, or swaying a system in one way or the other, just based on whatever energy is more present than another.
No, that's all. Okay. So
okay.
No. I mean, not that what you're saying is not material to this, but it's just not the thing, just all of what I was saying. So there's if you were to map, like the different ways that this protein could fold are very complex, right?
Sure.
But you see this averaging, like this Marianas Trench in these patterns. If you were to graph the stability in like 3 dimensions, just like I was describing that black hole, the stability of a chemical, like of a molecular structure, basically not the structure, but it's like fold. It's like 3-dimensional way that it's folded, right? Just that simple thing has all these different ways it can go. And there are, in many cases, and depending like on the situation and the specific structure of the thing, you could have more or fewer pockets of different stability. Like you could have a pocket over here and another black hole over here. So this thing, if it's in the middle, could go either way. And once it gets down there, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to take it out of that state enough so that you can move into another more stable state, because it's like 2 very deep pockets next to one another. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So even if there's one, let's say like if the arc of the universe does bend towards, or the moral arc of the universe bends towards good, right? And that's a really deep, the absolute deepest, most stable, balanced societal configuration.
Yes.
What if there's other pockets of stability, not only along the way down that hill, like little nooks and crannies you can get stuck in, but completely independent of that and adjacent to that. You can have, and since like sociology is such a complex thing anyway, you have, like you're talking about, competing of humans' natural tendencies, and then whatever the hell are the tendencies of the ripple effects from the way society happened to happen, because of.
Sure. And I do remember this conversation now, and once it goes into a better, but perhaps not ideal state of being, it takes an incredible amount of energy to get it out of that state.
To go into the ideal.
To go
exactly
into the ideal.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have to uproot tremendous amounts. That's literally.
But in a sense, that comes down to opinion as to what people believe is the ideal in a way.
I don't think so. I think there's
perhaps not from a macro perspective, but from a practically speaking, progressing as an individual in this society. I mean, so much of it comes down to our opinions and our algorithmic responses to whatever stimuli we have based on the way we grew up, basically.
Yeah. Well, and what we continue to subject ourselves to.
So what's the answer in 4 words? I'll give you 5.
See more complexity around you. Hondurasian, I don't remember. I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure that's not how you say Hondurasian.
Absolutely. Like a Syrian.
That's a Rastafarian Honduran. Is a Hondurasian.
Yeah.
In any case, can you please...
Hondurasian.